Welcome to the Telecom Talent Race. I'm Martha DeGrasse with RCR Wireless News. Our topic today is hiring the top talent, and our sponsor is AT&T. Our guests are David Brandvold. He's VP Global Engineering Support at AT&T Mobility. Tracy Cordova is Director, Global Staffing and Human Resources Operations for Motorola Solutions. Todd Luckasavitch is Director of Human Resources and Recruitment at Alcatel-Lucent. And William Stovall is Executive Sales Director for AT&T Mobility. We'd like to start by talking about some of the specific jobs and skill sets that are in demand as carriers roll out LTE networks. David, would you like to begin?
Sure. At AT&T, we're hiring a variety of technical talent, both on the wireline side of our business and the mobility side of the business. Of particular demand are engineers with RF engineering experience. Obviously, we've got a lot going on in terms of putting mobility capacity out into the network and growing the LTE network. Most often, we're looking for engineers, specifically EEs, with telecom experience and specific experience in RAN and RF engineering.
Thank you. Tracy, what about at Motorola Solutions?
Much like David at Motorola Solutions, we continue to hire a wide variety of engineers, system engineers and software engineers right now with a focus on video, are a particularly hot skill set. We're also hiring product managers as well as sales people with experience selling to public safety customers.
Thank you. And can we talk a little bit about which jobs are most appropriate for contract workers versus full-time employees?
At Motorola Solutions, we have both contractors and full-time employees in most areas of these jobs, and we don't really differentiate between where they fit best.
Todd, can you speak about that a little bit from Alcatel-Lucent's perspective?
Yeah, sure. Alcatel-Lucent, we use contractors heavily to implement demands for our customers or big wins, particularly with where we have a peak for our engineers, network solution architects, and project managers.
Okay, and about how long is a typical contract, do you think?
We generally run it 12 to 24 months for a general contract. Again, depending on the length of the requirement, oftentimes it can be 3 to 6. But for large site scale projects, we're looking for generally 12 months.
Okay, thank you very much. And Tracy, would you say that's about the same for you?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and David, what about at AT&T? Would you say 12 to 24 months is about the typical term for a contract?
Yeah, it is. We use both, again, badged employees and contract employees to engineer and design and build our network. Most often we use contract employees when we have a spike in activity in either a particular geography or a particular technology. And those spikes can last anywhere from 6 to 12, maybe upwards to 24 months. And then we resize the workforce on the contractor side.
Now, I'm sure that a lot of contractors bring a lot of valuable insights from previous jobs, and then they pick up a lot on your jobs. But then, of course, when they move on to their next job, they're taking a lot of information with them. Can you speak a little bit, Tracy, about ways to make sure that the confidential company information stays that way?
On Motorola Solutions, we do require that all of our contract employees sign the same type of non-disclosure and intellectual property agreements as our regular employees do. So while we realize it's not a fail-safe approach, we do think that does help contain some of the information.
Okay, thank you very much. That's interesting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about training. I know that one of the technology recruiters that we spoke to recently said that the pace of network rollouts has been so rapid that sometimes a lot of the training actually ends up happening on the job instead of formally. David, do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, I do. We use both a mix of formal training and on-the-job training in a variety of our engineering positions. And so we have some pretty intensive formal training programs. We refer to them as skill-based and knowledge-based programs. Oftentimes they're self-paced web type classes. Sometimes they're classroom-based classes. But then, when you get out on the job, obviously, if you have certain engineering skills, perhaps from earlier technologies, it's really more adapting to new technologies as opposed to being trained on new technologies. And so we use that balance, right? We use some formal training where we're providing employees with training on new skills, and then we do quite a bit of adapting existing knowledge through that on-the-job training vehicle.
So I'm hearing you say that people who are quick learners and flexible tend to probably do the best?
I think those are some of the characteristics. I would tell you the folks that tend to do the best bring with them some technical knowledge or experience. It may not be on the specific technology that they're going to work on when they come to work for us, but they have a technical background, technical skills, technical experiences that can quickly adapt to the particular area that they're hired for.
Okay, Todd, what's your perspective on that?
I think very similar to David. The customer demand is so urgent that
right.
While we've got a mix of courses. In fact, we're just in the process of rolling out our LTE certification program as well. I'd have to say really about 10% probably right now is formal versus on-the-job training, and so we really look for experienced engineers who can hit the ground running based on what they've the knowledge they've gained and the experience from other projects.
So you're saying up to 90% of the training is on-the-job training?
It would be close to that, yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking that people that appear or that show themselves to be good teachers and good leaders probably have a very important role to fill in these network build-outs.
It's huge. So when we look at it along with the technical training that we've built into our learning tracks and solutions, as well as our LTE certification program, I mean the leadership element of it and the project management element of it are just as important, if not more so, in a lot of cases.
Okay, is that true for AT&T as well, David? Do you find that people that emerge in a teaching role have a lot to contribute?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's more than teaching, though. When you look at how we leverage our most skilled or our most expert individuals, we think of them as staff positions, and so some of them may be working on processes or tools or methods that make it easier or more effective for lots of employees to do their jobs. So some of those people are technical writers, some are process experts, some put management controls in place, and then obviously some of them are teachers that communicate out to large numbers of individuals how they go about leveraging new tools or processes or engineering techniques in math.
Okay, that sort of leads to our next topic. I'd like to discuss ways that your companies encourage employees to innovate and promote best practices. David, again, I know AT&T has been a leader in this area, even developing some products that were proposed by employees. Can you talk a little bit about ways that you try to institutionalize innovation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do tap our entire employee base for innovation through something we call the TIP program. It's literally employee suggestions that are commented on in public forums, web forums. They're scored, they're ranked, they're rated. As those ideas mature, employees have the opportunity to buy stock in those ideas. And as those ideas move forward, the good ones obviously are kind of float to the top, get the backing of large numbers of people. There are opportunities for those ideas to be presented to leadership from an engineering technical evaluation perspective, from a marketing perspective in terms of sizing up the revenue opportunity, if that's the nature of the idea, and then they're pitched to our leadership, and many of those ideas are actually funded to move forward. And so that's very much a grassroots kind of bottoms-up idea approach, but it utilizes the opinions of many to help shape those ideas that again float to the top.
And Martha, if I could add, this is William Stovall on that note. I mean, you think of the innovation pipeline as our innovation generation system, and if you think about it, at AT&T, we have an employee 40,000 strong, and when you create an environment that empowers our employees to leverage that diversity of thought to spur innovation, it's a key to success. And the TIP process is really a vehicle for that. Now we have over 140,000 of our employees that participate in the innovation pipeline. And just to take an example of one of those ideas that actually came to market, if you think about a solution that's in the marketplace now called AT&T Toggle, which allows our devices to have multiple personas, that actually started as a TIP idea, which ran through the process ultimately to the fast pitch cycle where our AT&T executive teams saw the value and decided to fund it for further development. And it went through that process and is now a product that is out there in the marketplace.
That's pretty exciting for the individual who thought that up. Now, tell me a little bit more about employees buying stock in the idea. Are they just sharing their support, or are they actually putting dollars into the idea?
Yeah, this is David. That's a great question, and let me further comment. It is rewarding for the individuals that come up with the ideas, and depending on how successful they are, there are some financial rewards that are attached to that. Same goes true for stockholders. As a stockholder, you aren't necessarily putting in, green dollars, American dollars into the system, but rather, points. But if you provide your limited number of points to successful ideas, there's the potential for reward. And so part of the support that's come from the broad employee base is the fact that there's a potential reward for doing great work. One other comment I'll make here is I talk to them as points, right? You can gain points by participating in the program. So the more you comment, the more you rate and rank, the more points you have. And so, you are incented to participate in the program because it gives you more to invest. It's also crowdsourced in the sense that as a participant, you're rated in terms of how good your feedback is. And so the point system clearly identifies some standouts in terms of their expertise for participating in the program. And it's the comments of those experts that sometimes lead projects or individuals or ideas off in a certain direction.
Okay. I think for any employee, the opportunity to contribute and be recognized for that and see something that you've thought up come to fruition has got to be inspiring. Todd or Tracy, do either of you have anything you want to add on this topic before we move on? Okay. All right. Well, I want to take a moment to thank my friend John Taylor at Sprint for these photos. There are not that many photos of network deployments out there. So John, if you're listening, thank you again. Let's talk a little bit about communication skills. Several people have mentioned to us that more and more engineers need to represent the companies they're working for to other companies, to vendors, to suppliers, and that even the most skilled engineers will not be able to perform fully unless their communication skills are good. And that doesn't just mean verbal communication, but data analysis and presentation skills as well. So I'd like to ask you all about that. Todd, do you have an opinion on this at all that you'd like to share with us? I know that it must be something that comes up a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the requirement for strong communication skills and data analytics is really evolved and grown. For us, I know, it's huge importance given the nature and the size of the rollouts we're seeing for the customers. I mean, the rollout teams are large, both from an internal and external perspective. The project management is such a huge focus that communication is just it's crucial. And when you look at the responsibilities now and the scope of project and release managers on site, they're responsible to the customers, they're responsible to the development teams, the leadership leadership, it's absolutely imperative that they are able to communicate and able to understand the data and the consequences of that data that they're communicating. Same goes for the network and solution architects and technical sales engineers we have in front of our customers.
Okay, great. David, do you have anything to add on that?
Sure. From a communication perspective, there's really two examples I'd speak to as to why communication is important. First, a lot of our projects are what I would call development oriented, and so we're developing new capabilities, and that oftentimes requires a tremendous amount of communication between different organizations, different groups of people with different functions, and so clearly communicating in the area of understanding customer requirements, technical requirements, engineering requirements. You've got to be really tight on the communication. Part of that obviously is a technical understanding, but part of it is the ability to articulate that into useful pieces of information to the wide variety of people that are working on those development projects. The second is has to do with the scope of the work that we're doing. I mean, we're putting up hundreds, putting in thousands of network elements, tens of thousands. And so the scope of the activities, again, touches so many different organizations, so many different people. You've got to be really clear on your communication, or the impact of a mistake is pretty significant. From an analytical perspective, things are a lot more granular than they were even a couple of years ago. When you speak about something as simple as coverage, it used to be that we put up a cell site and it would cover, square miles of turf. And in this day and age, we're filling coverage gaps that are much smaller, and it requires a lot more analysis in terms of the level of granularity to cover, to thoroughly cover a city block or a neighborhood or even a building or a sports venue or convention center or something of the like. So analytics are important as well.
Tracy, do you have something to add on analytics?
Not on analytics, but I do echo the communication skills. I think it's really critical as our engineers partner closely with our sales and solutions architects to go out and speak to customers that aren't always the most technical group of individuals. We need to make sure that they can understand what we're trying to say and what we're trying to do, and the engineers can really put into day-to-day English what the solution would be and how that would impact the customer.
And what's the best way to help engineers gain that skill set as they work on these networks? Is it something that can be learned along the way, or do you pretty much find that either a person is skilled in that area or not skilled? Do you seek out people based on communication skills, or do you try to bring them along in that area?
I think we definitely assess for and look for communication skills as part of our hiring processes or moving people into new roles. While there are skills that can be coached and developed, it's a lot easier if you have the foundational pieces to work with.
Right. So that speaks to educational priorities as well. Don't ignore the English classes, right? Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about recruiting techniques. I know that many of you are directly involved in your company's recruiting strategies. Todd, would you like to start and talk about some of the more successful recruiting techniques at Alcatel? I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like a lot of our strongest source is really referral, and particularly we really target our we call our pipeline employees or our key talent pool. And really push them, to be honest, for like individuals. And so right now we're probably running about 20-25% for external hires on referral, and it's been quite successful. Huge campaign right now too as well, and we continue that to put a lot of focus for workforce planning on university and college recruiting, particularly on the developer side, strong software developers, strong software engineers. And then even going back to the discussion we had earlier with, the contractors, we really do see contractors as a possible tool for us to turn them into badged employees. And, there's just some that are just, they tend up being top talent. We just don't want to let them go. But biggest right now is, as well, obviously, is internal meeting. We've got a lot of initiatives right now taking down any barrier to the company, and really focus on moving people within, getting them development, getting them learning, particularly around moving some people out of more legacy type technologies, such as CDMA, and possibly looking to train them and develop in 4G.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Thanks. Okay, Tracy, can you talk a little bit about recruiting techniques that have been successful at Motorola Solutions?
Sure. Like Todd, I think our employee referral program is probably one of our most effective channels for recruiting these types of individuals. We do offer incentives for employees to refer, and they're paid for employees that are actually hired into the company. We have a strong UR focus where we partner with campuses across the United States and bring students in for our intern programs, which then becomes our entry-level pipeline. And we've also had, various successes with standard job postings, user groups. LinkedIn has been a great benefit for us in this area as well.
Okay, great. David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, in terms of external recruiting, networking is a big piece of that. We get a number of candidates through the AT&T.com website and just web applications. We also have on the network side, the network planning and engineering side, we have a summer intern program where we're getting typically second, third, and maybe fourth year engineers on board from a summer perspective, and many of them roll into our development program, which is our college hire program. Just to give you a feel for the kind of volumes we're looking for, it's our goal to onboard 100 or more engineers, entry-level engineers each year, just because we need that kind of volume of talent. It's typically double E's, but it's not limited to electrical engineers. We find that we can make use of many different, science and math and engineering-related curricula within our network development program.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add, Martha, I think one of the things we're doing at AT&T to give individuals that don't work for us currently an easier way for us to find them is through what we call the AT&T Talent Network. And it's a website that allows individuals, not only to understand what AT&T is about, where we're investing our positions on diversity, but also subscribe and provide information on their general interest, and go into kind of a talent pool bank. And when we start sourcing for open positions where we're going externally, those subscribed members, we scan those profiles first to understand who matches what interest, because that's part of their subscription process is to tell us the business units, the locations they're interested in working in. And so when you think about it, the individuals that are joining the talent network, if we can continue to reach into very diverse populations, it gives us a very good talent pool to pull from. Today, we have over 1.7 million subscribers to the AT&T Talent Network. And when you think about proactively communicating to these individuals, you got to be very cautious of over-communicating where it starts being seen as spam. And so we've taken a very unique approach to only make communications that matter, that are going to be impactful for them. And the way we measure on how effective that is by the opt-out rate. And right now, to 1.7 million members, we have a 0.3 opt-out rate for communication. So that's allowing us to tap into that base to get relevant information and really increase our talent pool that we can go after.
Yeah, that does.
Martha, it's David.
Yeah.
If I could, I'd like to add one more point.
Absolutely.
One of our recruiting techniques is to really speak to what a lot of new employees are looking for, and that is development. And so we have rotational programs. We feel like we've got some pretty good training programs. But one other item I'll specifically mention is what we call a technical career plan, and it allows technical individual contributors to have a career path that involves progression, up the line in terms of level of responsibility and level of compensation. And it's different from what many communication companies have had in place with the first level manager and a second level manager and so forth, that is more org chart oriented. This is specifically designed for technical talent, technical individual contributors to allow them to progress through formal steps with that contain financial reward at each step that are a little bit more granular and more often than the bigger jumps from a first level manager to a second level manager to a third level manager. That's been a big plus in our recruiting program.
That does sound good. Does anybody else have anything to add on that subject before we move on to talk about a few specific? Oh, yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Martha, I think like AT&T, we've got a technical ladder, we call it, where, the same thing. We really recognize the subject matter expertise from a technical perspective and allow technical people who don't want to necessarily be in the people manager side of the house to move up, into a hierarchy of pure technical expertise or, distinguished member of technical staff, we call it. But yeah, it's worked very well for us in trying to recruit very technical focused people.
So a lot of people know that about themselves going in, that they don't want to move up into management, but that they do want good opportunities for advancement, it sounds like.
That's right.
I would like to go back a little bit to college recruiting. You've all mentioned that, and I'd like to learn a little bit from each of you about how you interact with the programs and professors at the various universities from which you recruit, and how you identify, the best and the brightest coming right out of some of these engineering programs. David, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So one of the ways we actually do that is through the individuals that we've hired. Most of them still have a network back on campus. They can provide a pretty realistic viewpoint for what life is like here at AT&T, and we're finding that they are advocating for us and putting us in touch with, some of the better talent back on college campuses. In terms of interacting with the colleges themselves, we do align ourselves with certain colleges that are spread geographically so that we can feed each of our geographic needs, and we get involved in several different ways. One is through providing technical speakers that come to a meeting on campus, might speak to a general assembly of engineering students, and talk a bit about AT&T, but also talk about some of the real life experiences that they as individuals can bring back to the classroom, so to speak, in terms of preparing them for work life in general. So we do it in multiple ways. Those are just two examples.
Okay, good. Todd, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think it's similar. We really take advantage of our co-ops and interns that we currently have in-house. We have a strong focus on specific schools that are geography-based. We do a lot of speaking engagements. We bring, some of our technical folks, some of our people from, working on our sort of next-gen solutions that can kind of wow the students on campus. And we actually have a referral program specific to co-ops and interns and new grads.
Okay, that sounds great. Tracy, are there any specific geographies or universities or programs that Motorola Solutions focuses on that you know about?
Like the others, we have a set group of universities that are spread geographically that are the universities that we focus on, but we do hire interns and fresh out talent from universities all across the U.S. And similar recruiting techniques and programs as the other people. We use our interns as our ambassadors, sponsor career talks at universities, and things of the like.
Right. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about online tools, social media, and job boards. I know that LinkedIn was already mentioned. Tracy, do you find that social media is a good source of talent?
Social media helps us to promote our brand and get the word out and help people to understand that, what Motorola Solutions, what our purpose is. We help people be the best in the moments that matter, and it draws people to us. It's more of an indirect source of talent than a direct source of talent, I would say.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay. Does anybody else want to add anything on social media as a recruiting tool? So not, aside from LinkedIn, not a lot of referrals that you're aware of through that avenue.
We're the same, Martha, at Alcatel-Lucent. We really use it as a branding mechanism, particularly to colleges. But from a direct recruiting source, LinkedIn would be our key as well.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
We leverage social media to, promote relevant jobs. But I think it's more of a brand recognition avenue for us. I think the AT&T talent network is where we're really allowing to give the employees or potential employees a full view about AT&T and where our focus areas are from a career standpoint.
Okay, great. William, I'd like to move on to you and talk a little bit about sales and marketing teams. We've talked quite a bit about engineers, and I know that LTE is changing the job description for sales and marketing teams, and I'm hoping that you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, the technology is certainly advancing at quite a rapid pace. If you span across the last 10 years and you think about where we were in the early 2000s and where we are now, the technology, the capability set is really allowing us to deliver some fantastic solutions to our clients. And so to bring in the right individuals that can understand the technology and really apply it into, whether it's a business environment, if you're in enterprise sales, or if you're in a retail environment where you're trying to, position how technology can change your everyday life, I think, that it's very critical. We have a couple different things we do from a training perspective to address a few different populations. And some of them have been talked about already, indirectly, but, we look at three populations, right? We have our employee base and training curriculums around that. We have those that are about to enter the workforce at AT&T. And then as we just touched on in kind of the college environment, we have those that are continuing their education right now that we feel there's an opportunity to start getting them prepared for a potential career at AT&T. And so, Martha, I'll touch on the three things real quick that we have in place for our internal employees. We have what we call AT&T University. And this is our award-winning corporate university, which gives leadership development programs for all employees. And rather than just a central database that houses a bunch of courses, we really align our learning and development programs to our business imperatives. So think about the evolution of LTE and how it's becoming prevalent in the marketplace and how do we capitalize on those opportunities. But our T University is composed of whether it's live instructor-led, videocast, webinar, web-based, and so we give our employees a number of different vehicles to kind of enhance their knowledge. And it's not just siloed into your own job function. We give our employees the opportunity to really look outside of their job function, whether maybe it's finance or IT, and take training to continue to expand their knowledge there. We have our leadership development program for our individuals coming into the workforce at AT&T, and it really there's 8 core development programs focused at key business segments to train and develop our talent coming in. Just to name a couple, we have our NetDP leadership program, which is network engineering and technical development. So think about what David's been talking about around LTE deployment and skill sets. We have Matrix, which is information technology management leadership development program. We have our business sales leadership development program and our financial leadership program. So we're trying to canvas a lot of the different business segments at AT&T and preparing individuals to be successful once they begin employment. The last piece is the student internship program, which we really enjoy partnering with some colleges and bringing interns into our program. And similar to the leadership development program, this spans across 5 different areas: finance, HR, IT, and AT&T labs. And these are 10 to 12-week programs where we have interns that are currently in college that do different rotational assignments. And upon completion of these intern programs, they have an ability to actually come in to our leadership development program, which I just mentioned. So we put a lot of emphasis on, training and development to make sure that people, one, are leveraging the technology that's out there and have the best opportunity to be successful and enhance their career at AT&T.
Okay, great. Tracy, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, I think they've covered it.
Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the motivators other than compensation that encourage employees and help to recruit the best employees. William, do you want to start with that?
Well, yeah, I think, as I look at what's important to employees potentially coming to work for AT&T, it's, I think there's 3 things outside of compensation, right? It's personal development and
right.
career growth. It's, being in an environment where their voices are heard and valued, and really opportunities to connect with the business at a deeper level, even outside of their job function. And when you think about personal development and career growth, you go back to the LDP programs I just mentioned and our T University as a vehicle for that. Voices heard and valued. That's why we're investing a lot in the innovation pipeline, as David and I discussed earlier. But also, annually, we do our employee engagement survey to understand how do we make our organization better by feedback from our employees. And one of the outputs of that this year was something called My Career Profile for our AT&T employees to actually turn the tables around getting recruited for career advancement. So now they have a vehicle where they can go document their skill set, house it in a kind of an open forum, so our staffing teams can go source our internal talent and find jobs that are related to the skill sets that they possess and proactively reach out to them for potential career progression. So we think that's a great way to actually, be more proactive around career advancement. And then, the last thing around engaging with the organization at a deeper level, we have 11 employee resource groups at AT&T, and those 11 groups do a great job at connecting people together with similar interests, but doing a lot of work in the community and actually helping spread the AT&T brand and helping as far as our recruiting efforts. And so, a lot of different vehicles outside of just compensation where individuals can feel connected to AT&T and actually see, a place where they can really kind of grow their career.
Okay. Todd, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think we've seen a bit of an interesting trend. Even in the Valley lately, we've seen people coming and applying and accepting jobs with Alcatel-Lucent for even less money. So it's an interesting question. You talk about compensation, and the key driver has really been the opportunity not only to work with some leading edge technology, but to work with particular individuals or experts in the field that they see that they can learn and develop from. And then much like with AT&T, we have absolutely no barriers to move within the organization. So we actually actively source internally as well and move people quite frequently. And we'll call subject matter experts, both technical and from a leadership perspective, to take on roles and really focus them on where we think the business is moving.
Okay, that sounds great. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about movement within the companies. I know we've touched on that a little bit, but Todd, you said earlier that transitioning people from CDMA to LTE and getting people into some of the faster growing areas was a priority. Can you talk a little bit both about ways that you encourage employees to make that move and what some of the employee responses are to some of these changes?
Yeah, for sure. So we've got an internal initiative we've been running for about 18 months now, and it's really been focused on ensuring that all employees globally, so it's a global initiative, manage an active profile, which is essentially a resume within our applicant tracking system or our talent system, as we call it, and it's linked not only to recruiting but to our overall talent management initiatives as well. And we really look to pinpoint people that are looking for moves. Obviously, we identify top talent and put focus on them in terms of where they can bring skills and knowledge to another piece of the business. We do focus obviously with on individuals that are part of legacy product lines that may start ramping down, and we work very closely from a recruitment, talent management, and business perspective to meet regularly to say, if we see some possible downtime or, even possible reduction in certain areas of business, what other areas of business can use these skill sets, or can we start putting development plans in to prepare these people to move to a next generation technology or a newer technology.
Okay, David, do you want to speak about that a little bit as well, moving employees internally to faster growing parts of the businesses?
Yeah, that's a challenge, and especially one that we deal with here, given the technology shifts that have occurred. And so we've got a pretty concerted focus in preparing individuals who work on the old technologies, commonly referred to in this case as TDM technologies, and preparing them to work on some of the newer growing technologies. On the wireline side of the business, it might be IP connectivity, IP engineering, or Ethernet engineering, or on the mobility side, it would be the RF engineering that we talked about earlier. And so, one of the ways we do that is through the skill and the knowledge training programs that I spoke of earlier. We specifically identify certain training programs that might be applicable for a particular individual. And while the training program in and of itself doesn't train you for a specific job, when you complete the series that is IP communications or Ethernet communications, or even the RF engineering, bronze or silver level courses, that gives you a whole different, foundational background to prepare you for a new position. And so between the experience you have on an older technology and the new knowledge or skill that you've learned through the training program, we think that sets individuals up very favorably for moving to a new side of the business in terms of performing, technical roles on new networks. They're still going to require some additional training. Some of that will be on the job. Some of that will be technology-specific training. But they're much better equipped to make that transition than just looking for someone to apply without the benefit of those skill or knowledge-based programs.
Absolutely. And what about moving between the carriers and the infrastructure providers? Do you see much of that?
I mean, obviously, we have people that move between companies. Generally speaking, though, when we bring somebody on board, we're really looking for them to be on board for the long haul. And so we try to recruit with the intent of retaining. And I'd say we've had a pretty good amount of success in doing that. Obviously, there's always individual exceptions, but we're looking to bring people on board for the near term, 1 or 2 or 3 years, but more for the long term.
Okay, and would you agree with that, David?
Well, that was David, but so yes.
I'm sorry, Todd. Would you agree with that?
No, definitely. Yeah, we like to, and I guess what we're really getting to is we're trying to invest in the employee.
Okay. One thing that we have not touched on that much is entry-level jobs and opportunities to start out both on the engineering side and the sales and marketing side. So I'd like to ask each of you, if you could, to take just a minute to comment on that. David, do you want to begin?
Yeah, and so I touched on it earlier. We have an entry-level hiring program. We refer to it as the Network Development Program. Just in rough numbers, we're looking to bring on board 100 or more entry-level engineers. Often they're electrical engineers, but we find that most any technical background has a place. When I talked about that as a program, we look for those employees to hold 2 different positions in the first about 3 years, and at the end of that 3-year period, we typically rotate them to a third position. And because of the level of talent we're bringing in through this program, we find that those employees are often ready to start climbing either the technical track upwards or the managerial track upwards. And so training and development has been a big part of that program.
Okay, that sounds great. Tracy, what about you? Can you comment a little bit about what the entry-level position is and what the pathway is from there?
Absolutely. So a lot of our entry-level jobs are engineering. You'll see a great deal of people at Motorola Solutions start out as a software engineer, an electrical engineer, a system engineer. They move into other areas like sales and product marketing and things like that. But generally, our entry-level point is engineering.
Okay, so you do move people, though, from the engineering side into sales and product marketing. That is common?
Yes.
And what are some of the additional trainings and the additional steps involved in that?
Really, it's getting an understanding of our product lines, getting comfortable with the communication skills, getting familiar with our customer base, our culture, and then being able to go out. I mean, that's how somebody moves from engineering into sales.
Right. And William, from your perspective in sales and marketing, do you find that people with a technical background bring a good expertise to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about the types of services we're selling today, they're obviously a bit more complex, moving beyond just the traditional, voice and text and email, services of the past. And so, having that technical background does really set a foundation for success. I talked about the leadership development program that has 8 core areas, but two of those are around our retail sales leadership program and our business sales leadership program. And these are ways to get individuals into a curriculum that once completed, they are really set up for more success at AT&T. I mean, obviously, it's a big company. Navigating a large company can be challenging just coming into the job. And so it gives them very good operational soundness, but also tells them how to apply the technology that we're going to be selling, whether it's in an enterprise environment or business environment or in a consumer environment.
So can you speak a little bit about entry level? Obviously, there's a lot going on with sales and marketing and with all the new areas that you mentioned that are out there for sales and marketing people to specialize in. Do you think that a sales background or a technical background is generally a better starting place, or do you think that it really has more to do with just the individual?
Well, I mean, I think it does. It's individual based, but I think a well-rounded background is actually ideal because the stuff we are selling today spans across a number of different areas, and so whether it's having previous sales experience or technical experience, both can be extremely valuable when you combine them together. Whether it's wired experience, whether it's wireless experience, I wouldn't focus in on just one skill set, but again, I think a well-rounded skill set is ideal.
And what about somebody that comes in with a strong sales and marketing background, but not even from the industry? Is that, I know in years past that might have worked, but is it too specialized now that that's not really an avenue anymore?
No, I wouldn't exclude that. I think, we have really good training programs, and I think that's one of the things we've been investing in. And so we have the opportunity to take somebody that has those fundamentals and build them into this, specific industry.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add on the entry-level jobs? Okay, so the last thing that I'd like to discuss is sort of the other end, the jobs that require the most experience and probably deliver the highest levels of compensation. If you could each take a minute to just comment on 1 or 2 jobs that are sort of the higher end of the scale with respect to LTE, and certainly that could be on the technical side of things or the marketing side of things. David, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I would say the RF engineering side is probably the most sought after for a couple of different reasons. One, we've had our share of technology changes, and so each technology's gotten more sophisticated. But when you think about what's happening in the industry, I mean, AT&T is putting in roughly 4 times the capacity per year of what we were putting in just a couple of years ago, and it's no different for the industry. And so there's just a 3, 4, 5-fold increase in the amount of engineering activity that's being done by all companies, not just AT&T. And so engineering the RF space is right at the center of that, and that's why it's become the most demanding.
Okay, great. Todd?
I think for us, I have to say it's probably the network and solution architects.
Okay.
We're looking for people with, a combination or wireless technologies, a good understanding of, GSM, UMTS, WiMAX, but also, anyone who's had experience with LTE is just an extreme bonus right now, given the scarcity in the market. And, extremely knowledgeable on IP-based technology is huge for us. So we're willing to pay and, really strong market value for those individuals. And because not only do they have the technical skills, but in most cases, or I should say in all cases, they need to have the strong communication and analytical skills as well to bring them right up front with the customer.
Absolutely. Okay, and William, speaking of the customer, what would you say on the sales and marketing side is the most sought after?
Thanks, Martha. And it's not, not wildly off from what Todd was saying. I think, again, what we're selling to the customer now are solutions and complex solutions. And, our application consultant positions are very highly sought after. Those that can come in and really architect a complex solution for the customer, knowing that we're getting into that space where it's not necessarily always right out of the box, a lot more custom design. And so individuals who have that application experience, software sales, are certainly skill sets that we're looking for. Okay, great. And Tracy, what about at Motorola Solutions? What would you say is perhaps the most sought after or most highly compensated?
Yeah, I'm sure the others wouldn't be surprised that we are competing for the same type of talent. A technical architecture, our technical architect at Motorola Solutions is highly sought after, somebody that can come in, understand the customer's end-to-end needs, requirements, and suggest an end-to-end solution that's going to take care of those needs and be an ongoing service for that customer.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all very much for joining us today. David, Tracy, William, and Todd. Thanks for being here, and we will have a follow-up webcast on this topic scheduled now for October 30th, so watch our website for that at rcrwireless.com. Thank you again, and this will conclude today's webinar.